Hey there, everybody. Coach Mark here. And before we dive into today's topic, make sure to find me over on Instagram as Coach Mark Estrabio. Also, I offer one-to-one coaching. It's what I do full time. Odds are very good. I'd love to work with you. But with that being said, let's get into it. So today we're going to be talking all about this guy right here, Mr. Derek, and his big win at the Mount Rainier Classic in the men's 90 kilo class. So let's talk a little bit about the lay of the land in sense of what the show consisted of and what was going on with Derek leading into the show. So Mount Rainier itself consisted of 6 events. There was the block press, car deadlift, bag throws, Trump-style circus dumbbell, in that you had 2 circus dumbbells and 1 rep on the heavier Trump bell was worth a more billion reps on the lighter bell. So if you could do the heavier bell, obviously you'd want to do the heavier bell. A 4-implement mystery carry medley, and then stone to shoulder for reps. Now, it's worth mentioning he was training for this show contemporaneously with the Idaho Strongman Championship, where he recently took second. And what we did is we had 4 dedicated weeks for Mount Rainier right after the Idaho Strongman. I think it's worth mentioning he was training for Rainier contemporaneously with the Idaho Strongman Championships. After ISC, he had 4 dedicated weeks where we ran a true peak for it. But in the latter 4 weeks of ISC prep, we did a lot of adjacent work to help get him ready for Rainier without tapping into his peak for ISC, where he did finish second place. So for the Rainier specific prep, our split was pretty basic. 2 upper, 2 lower. Day 1 consisted of block push press, block strict press, a Swiss bar floor press, and various remedials. Then it was trap bar deadlift, which acted as our primary proxy for the car deadlift, a Hatfield squat versus chains, farmer's walks, and remedials. Day 3, we did some throwing, circus dumbbell, 1.5 rep neutral grip strict presses, landmine presses, remedials, and then day 4 was 10 dang extensions, sandbag to shoulder, trap bar RDLs, and of course, some remedials. So our first event was the block press, and where he got 2 reps. Now, leading into this, ISC, the main press there was an axle press from blocks, so that was obviously what his primary pressing variation was, which honestly was not a bad option because it did help build a lot of overload and overhead strength. And before we had access to an actual pressing block, which he acquired from Snake River Fabrications, we were actually doing wide neutral grip presses. This is something I've talked about on my Instagram channel, and that is simply taking something like a Swiss bar, throwing some fat grips on it, and pressing it that way because it's one of those close enough is good enough situations. Additionally, the neutral grip floor press was really big here too because it helped overload his triceps for a stronger press. We also made use of strict presses as well as pause dip drive push presses here for the block. Because it is a large and awkward implement, I find any sort of tempo manipulation that helps you spend more time where you tend to misgroove or lose the implement is the best way to go without introducing tons of unnecessary variation to the exercise itself. Our next event was the car deadlift for 20 repetitions. I find that car deadlifts seem to be a pretty high rep event in general. It's very rare that the winning rep count is a single digit amount, just observationally. Obviously, there's always exceptions to the rule. This is just something I've noticed. Our primary proxy for this event was a trap bar deadlift from high handles. Additionally, we focused a lot on the 6 to 8 rep range with high rep back downs. Our primary accessory was the SSB Hatfield squat versus chains. And the reason why I like this one a lot is adding in those chains plus the Hatfield, it makes it so he's going to really focus on pushing his knees forward and overloading the quads, which is essential for this movement pattern, right? We need a ton of leg and lockout strength. Additionally, we would also do some trap bar RDLs to help with his hinge pattern overall. And you can see a sample session right now, not very complicated. This is just one of those ones where you just simply need to be disgustingly strong for repetitions. Next up was the sandbag throwing series, and this was just a pretty basic weekly session where we do swings and throws, just practicing and drilling the movement here. There's just not a lot to say about this event. I gotta say though, it is one that seems to be getting extremely common at competitions, and I'm tired of seeing it, so just saying. Speaking of events, I am really tired of seeing it was the Trump Circus Dumbbell. Training for this event was fairly basic. We did a lot of weekly touches where he would do a top set of 1 to 3 reps and then back down volume. As far as support work, the 1.5 rep press was really helpful here because as I talked about with the block press, it gave us a lot of tricep overload as well as strength endurance, which is going to be really good for helping get that thing back in position if you misgroove, if it tries to get away from you. Additionally, we did extra accessory volume on his non-competition arm to help stay ahead of asymmetry or getting egregious imbalances. I am not a fan of treating the circus dumbbell on both arms in a peak phase. I honestly don't really think it's worth the time and energy, and that is something that I learned from Big Z himself, so just your mileage may vary, but I'm going to listen to the GOAT. Yet again, speaking of things that seem to be getting way too common, we had the 4 implement carry, and the first 3 implements were awesome, but then we saw a duck walk. Now, during prep, all we knew is that there would be farmers. So these were done weekly. And then for his second carry, I rotated between sandbag and yoke work. And the reason why I picked these two was these are both very common events. And what's nice about training the sandbag carry is that is going to have carryover to both a block and keg. Obviously, the duck walk was a bit of a wild card. However, he's got plenty of leg and upper back strength, so it wasn't too much of an issue. Obviously, he won the event. Last but not least was stone to shoulder. We trained this only to his dominant side. It was pretty basic work. We did a lot of singles to begin, and then from there we would add in reps. And then that tandang extension helped build that explosive triple extension to help him get that thing into place. We also did have him travel one week where he was able to go to another facility and kind of feel their stones, just get a feel for an odd implement overall. In training, we primarily used sandbags, which I think was really beneficial when it does come time to switch over to a natural stone versus, say, using an atlas stone, just because there is a bit of an awkward shimmy and shift with it. So this is what his competition week deload looked like, in case you were wondering what that might look like. 2 very low effort days, and it clearly paid off because he won the whole thing. Now, he won it by 1/2 of a point, so that really shows us the importance of consistency at these high-level shows. So hats off to you, Mr. Derek. So I think a few key takeaways from this, if you are looking on what you can do for your own programming, is specificity increases the closer you get to a show, both in terms of loading and rep formats. Time sets, for example, are an incredibly potent option for the strongman athlete, but they can also be very grueling. If you're 16 weeks out, you probably shouldn't be doing them. Proxies are always valuable. For example, that wide neutral grip press, that built a very wide strength base that carried over into the block press before he had access to it. Tandang extensions, an amazing triple extension exercise that's going to carry over to pressing, to loading, to your cleans, all around probably one of my top 5 non-event specific event accessories. And then positional improvements, these are very cheap investments with massive return on it, right? Pauses, slow dips, anything that gets you spending time where you fall apart is what you need. You need to be exposed to those positions and learn how to claim those positions as well as reclaim those positions if you get out of the groove. But that really wraps it all up. Again, just a big congratulations to Derek for this massive win. We're now moving into more of a mass building offseason, so that'll be really fun for him. I hope you folks found something useful in this. Again, I do offer one-to-one coaching. Hit the link down below if you want to apply for it. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time.